Heritage Month. One of the best ways, my favorite ways to practice hoodoo, and is reading accounts of the ancestors' lives, reading first person slave narratives, but also reading books about enslaved ancestors. Right now, I'm reading this book, Freedom Ship by Marcus Rediker. It's pretty good. I really enjoy reading these stories and love hearing about the lives of freedom fighters, abolitionists, people who escaped from slavery, and Maroons. I even read the chapter on Frederick Douglass aloud to my 8-year-old who also really enjoyed it. Probably my favorite chapters have to be the one about Harriet Jacobs and the one about William P. Powell. I love the story of Harriet Jacobs, which she told herself in the book Incidents on the Life of a Slave Girl. I had the incredible honor, pleasure, and blessing to first read in a small seminar taught by former Black Panther Kathleen Cleaver at Yale when I was an undergraduate. I was actually the only person who was not a senior in that class, and we read Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs together. Awesome. Unforgettable. Rediker does a pretty good job retelling her story in this book, too, for what it's worth. The chapter on Jonathan Walker was surprisingly interesting. I'd never heard of this person. He is a white man, so it's a white man talking about another white man, but actually an incredible ally who freed and or tried to free several people from slavery and was an expert boat maker. But then, in one attempt, they were caught out at sea, wound up imprisoned. There was just one passage I took issue with at the end of the story, and I'll read it to you now. Jonathan's term of 11 months in a southern jail confirmed and deepened his abolitionist views of slavery and indeed radicalized them. He personally had been tortured by the slave power, which increased his sensitivity and sympathy for others who had it worse. The insults of his case continued right up to the moment of his release, when he discovered that he was being charged rent for occupying his jail cell. In the end, and this is the part I took issue with, in the end, he, or more precisely, his abolitionist supporters, paid $600, almost $24,000 in 2024, in fines and fees for his liberation. The repayment paled in comparison to the public humiliation. The payment is very significant, in my opinion. How many enslaved people's freedom, how many lives have buy people's freedom could they have purchased out of bondage? Violent branding of his hand. His hand was branded SS for slave stealer. I hope he always considered it to be the initials of the person he tried to free, who unfortunately died in prison. The man who had first approached him about the collective escape was accused of theft and thrown into jail in the room next door. Scott now faced fierce punishment, which he was unwilling to accept. He had somehow managed to smuggle into jail with him a razor, which he used to cut open his throat and belly. He expired a couple hours later. The item he was accused of stealing was soon found, having been misplaced by another person. Jonathan was subsequently moved into the adjoining room where he lived amid the heart's blood of his shipmate's suicide. Jonathan walked out of jail a free man on June 16th, 1845. I hope he considered the SS for Silas Scott. Silas Scott. Say his name. Silas Scott. Silas Scott. But it actually got even worse. Later on in the book, in the part about Boston anti-slavery efforts, there's a story of George who attempted to escape slavery, made it to a free state, but unfortunately was kidnapped, and after a crazy boat chase was brought back into slavery and never heard from again. At the conclusion of his specific part of the narrative, in the section about Boston, Rediker, the author, writes, the forces of anti-slavery lost the battle over Georgia's freedom, but in the end, it was a productive defeat. Productive, how can you say it was productive? And the justification for that crazy statement, is that they formed, after that, a new organization. So white people rallied around that, failed to save his life, and then formed a new community organization that they called the Vigilance Community. I don't see how that compares to a person's life. It took me 2 days before I would open this book back up because I was so pissed off about that. Who is he to say, or who is the author to say that it paled in comparison? That's a lot. I will say the book went on from there to say that maritime fugitives continued to arrive in the Boston Harbor. 1846, there was a record of 19 people. November 30th, 1846, and April 13th, 1847. During these 4.5 months, it is likely that as many fugitives or more went directly to the free black community for aid rather than through the committee. So the records understate the number of those who arrived. Black people still freed themselves. That a lot of them may have chosen to bypass the organization that formed in the wake of the loss of a person back into the unjust slave system of the South. I'm so tired of our ancestors' lives and their incredible sacrifices being considered or used as fodder or fuel for some sort of movement or collective or organization. Our lives matter, full stop. Our lives matter. Investment in people's lives matter more than an organization, a nonprofit, a collective, a group, TM, period. Each one of them is irreplaceable, and I can't stand this fucking rhetoric, especially when it's coming from settler colonizers. It is painful in a way. I wonder if white or non-black authors know to read about our ancestors, there's enslaved ancestors, and their incredible harrowing trials, and to have that silver lined as critical to the development of any movement, including abolition. Human lives are not fodder. Black lives matter. Through time, black ancestors' lives still matter. I know that's hard pill to swallow, but if those are not organizing around individual people's needs, then they could be jeopardizing marginalized